Oikos presents 15 Seconds of Strength.
Here we go. Steve's got a trunk full of groceries and no one to help him.
Oh, that's tough, Jim. Looks like a 5-trip load at least.
He grabs the first bag, the second. Bob, it looks like he's trying to do it all one trip. He shimmies the door open, steps over the dog, and he stumbles.
Oh, right into the kitchen without missing a beat. Jim, now that's a man who eats his protein-packed Oikos.
With 15 grams of complete protein in each cup, Oikos Triple Zero can help build strength for every day. Oikos, stronger makes everything better.
Hello and welcome back to the show. I am Patrick. I'm here, as I always am, with Ben. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Yeah, doing awesome, Patrick.
It's good to see you. I'm excited to have this conversation. We're going to answer
Likewise.
a listener question. Diego sent this to us. I'm going to read the question because I think it's going to be enough context for us to get right into it. This is what he says. He says, can you please summarize the tools to get rid of the victim mindset? I'm well aware of the mindset continuum and how being a victim is a detriment to every part of life. The problem is that my natural tendency is to feel like a victim. Every time there are troubles in my life, my first reaction is to behave like a victim, and it takes a lot of effort to become aware of it and try to move on. What are the tools to try to change my nature, trying to behave at least like a pessimist when something happens? So I wanted to start this conversation. First of all, thank you, Diego, for the question and honestly for the awareness enough to be able to ask this question, because I do actually think that that's worth pointing out. But I thought we could enter in this conversation. Can you do a quick reminder as to what this mindset continuum is? What is the victim mindset? How do we define it? And then maybe even layer in the sick, well, fit continuum that we've talked about before from CrossFit, because I do think it maybe is a useful analogy or a useful way to talk about this. But first, mindset, victim mindset, mindset continuum. Let's start there.
So it helps to frame this up as such, as a continuum, meaning as one of those sort of like bell-shaped curves. And on the far left-hand side, you have the victim mindset. If you were to move up a little bit, you'd come into the pessimist mindset. Up from there is the optimist. As you move past the optimist, which for most people is kind of optimal, we're saying that's just sort of in the middle. You are just kind of like doing okay. You become the realist. The realist is above the optimist. And finally, with enough work, intention, time, and consistency, we might be able to get into pieces and experience the warrior mindset, which is really that anti-fragile, right? Which is hard things, obstacles, adversity, challenges, things that I otherwise would have if I was a victim, lay blame, complain, point fingers. Those are the things that I know make me stronger. And they actually do make you stronger if you are the warrior. So it's a continuum. And as you said, it kind of, if you overlaid that on top of the sick, well, fit continuum, what you see is this is essentially mental fitness, mental wellness, and mental sickness or mental illness. What we're saying is mental illness, being sick on the far left of the continuum, is that victim mindset or that pessimist mindset. Being well in the middle of the continuum of the bell-shaped curve, where we hope most people are, is the optimist. And as you edge closer towards fitness, which is fitness is a hedge against sickness. The fitter you are, the harder it is for you to be killed. That is just the way nature is, mentally and physically and otherwise. You can basically layer all of these 5 factors onto it. And this is our think category. This is in terms of the think, you could layer this on sick, well, and fit. If you become the realist, and certainly if you are the warrior, you have mental fitness.
Can you talk about that hedge just really briefly, that idea of being fit hedges against sickness? What do we mean by that? And how does being more towards that realist and warrior mindset, what is that hedge against? Why is it worth this whole conversation? Why is it worth getting ourselves to that end of the spectrum?
And we've seen people like this, Miranda Oldroyd, who now runs street parking. Back in the day, she was a CrossFit competitor. Yeah, she was in a horrific car accident. A car accident that the doctor said would have killed almost anyone else. But because she was so fit, she just basically had to wear a neck brace for like 3 weeks and she was good. Yeah. That was because she was so fit. Somebody that didn't have her strength to take that impact would have been killed. means they didn't have the buffer, didn't have the hedge. So it works for sicknesses. It works for traumatic events like slip and falls. If you are fit past the age of 75 and you fall and you get a bruise. If you are well, you fall and you might get a fracture. If you are sick, you fall, you die. You can't absorb the impact, and 30% of people that slip and fall over the age of 60 are gone within a year. So this is what that means. It works the same way when you layer on, that's physicality. And by the way, the cool part about that is it doesn't just work with biometrics that you get from a doctor, even more powerful. And I don't say that as conjecture. I don't say that as hyperbole. Even more powerful is how your fitness standards match up on that. Even more powerful is what can you back squat? Mm-hmm. How many pull-ups can you do? How long does it make you to run a mile? Those numbers are more indicative of where you are in sick, well, and fit than triglycerides, than ApoB, than fasting glucose, than A1C. Now, the ones that I want to bring to the table are where are you by default and where do you spend the majority of your time on this mindset continuum? Mm-hmm. Victim, pessimist, optimist, realist, or warrior. And also recognize that much like the fitness one, you don't just get to kind of hang out in one. Like the fitness one doesn't move as quickly as the mindset one does, but you're not going to be in the same spot when you're 88 as you are when you're 28 in the fitness one. Everyone kind of goes, okay, I kind of get that. I can't run as fast. I can't lift as much. It changes throughout your lifetime. It might even change week to week. Like you might get a cold. You might not sleep as much. You might be overtrained. You might be undertrained. So it does move a little bit. It's not just like this is where I am. The mindset one, we all do have this kind of default set point. But the kind of important things to recognize is that it's going to fluctuate. And this one fluctuates a lot. Yep. Minute to minute and moment to moment. This is what's cool about the way that we train. Is when you train the way we do, which is really hard, a lot of times you get to experience all 5 of those levels in singular minutes. Yep. Like it's kind of wild. And that's what's so powerful about this, is if we're able to recognize, which is, Diego is, I love this. This is like, love this question. Diego goes so much farther along than he recognizes. Mm-hmm. Because once you can map where you are, moment to moment, you're playing a different game. You're actually, I should say, now you're playing the game. Diego has stepped onto the playing field. Diego has stepped into the mental gym, and now he is now training. And that's what I don't think Diego recognizes, is that he is now training. Once you go like, I recognize that I'm there and I'm trying to work towards the pessimist, we're in training mode. You have walked into the mental dojo and you are now doing reps. Yep. The challenging part, the really short answer, and we can dive into this in a gazillion different ways, but the really short answer is the danger is when you don't have any awareness of where you are and you're just operating on default mode, not recognizing that it's plastic, that you can change this. And not only can you change it in the moment, you change it over time enough. You are building up the repetitions. You're building up the mental musculature. You're building up the mental fortitude, mental strength, the mental toughness to now have a new default set point. Just like when you get a certain level of fitness, you might have a new mile time. It doesn't mean that you get to the point where you can run a 6:30 mile. It doesn't mean that every single day you can run a 6:30 mile. Some days that's going to be a 6:50. Some days it's going to be a 7:10. And maybe if you time it right and get on the track on the right day, you might PR. But it's a new kind of set point. You're not at a 13-minute mile. You're not yet at a 5-minute mile, but you kind of fluctuate in that area with enough work, awareness, intention, strategy, right? Awareness is just like, am I aware of this thing? Do I know about it? Intention is the strategy, the game plan. I am going to do these things, and then action. You take action on it. And when you do that over time, I think what Diego probably doesn't recognize right now is much like getting to a 5.5-minute mile or a 400-pound deadlift or being able to do 20 unbroken strict pull-ups. it doesn't happen in weeks, months, or even a year. You get better in a year, but this really should be measured in decades. I would love to talk to Diego a decade from now if he keeps on this path and see where his default set point is on that spectrum.
Yeah. Last thing, just to set this conversation up a little bit, is I want to make sure we know, what does the victim mindset look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? How do we know that that's it versus pessimism, for example?
Yeah. Right. Okay. So what does it sound like? It sounds like blaming, complaining, passing the buck, lack of ownership. It's someone else's fault. There's nothing I can do about it. It's because of them. It's because of the other political party. It's because of my boss. It's because of my mom, my dad. It's because of whatever it is. It's not me. I can't catch a break. No one supports me. There's nothing I can do. Why does this always happen to me? This is just the way things are. People don't appreciate me. That's the language, right? I would say blaming and complaining is the language of the victim. You're basically just like, there's nothing I can do. Like there's no ownership. It's the pointing fingers instead of pulling thumbs. What does it feel like? It feels powerless. It's full of resentment. It's people that are anxious and overwhelmed. It's depression. It's a feeling of being misunderstood. It's hopeless and it's trapped. That's what being a victim feels like. What does it look like? It looks like you're avoiding responsibility. You blame others. It's no action. It's just complaining. It's waiting for someone else to fix the problem. It's playing small. It's comparing yourself to others. It's feeling cheated. It's shrinking from feedback and seeing feedback as a personal attack.
What are the dangers of the victim mindset? And maybe specifically, what are the dangers of spending too much time? Actually, we should keep going back. Like, we're going to dip into this. It's really a question of how quickly can we notice it and begin to move ourselves up the continuum. So I don't want to make it sound like people are living there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But what are the dangers of spending too much time in the victim mindset across? We've talked about a little bit already with health, but across those sort of three big pillars we have of health, happiness, and living with our hearts on fire. Is there anything worth mentioning that we haven't already talked about in terms of why it's important, like Diego is trying to get to, that we actually begin to dismantle this victim mindset to the degree that we can, if our goal is to live a life centered on health and happiness and having our hearts on fire?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are tangible costs to the victim mindset, and they are first and foremost is increased stress and anxiety. Yep. If you don't feel like you have any influence over any outcomes, that is a stressful state to live in, because you are just going to be pushed around by any external forces. You have no agency. Increased stress and anxiety is decreased health. And this is why this lives on that sickness, wellness, fitness continuum. You are sick, and it manifests in physical ways. It's not just like stress in my mind. It's actually stress shows up physiologically. And they've shown this under MRIs. If someone is stressed, their arteries, their veins, their blood vessels, things that transport everything to the rest of the body, close up. Arteriosclerosis, they close up. That's what leads to heart disease. If people go from a stressed to a relaxed state, they open up. It's literally causes literal sickness living in this victimhood. On top of that, it's poor sleep. It's poor immune function. So they do this as well. Doctors know that a stress state suppresses the immune system. So before you go in for an organ transplant, they actually inject you with stress hormones. So your body, your immune system won't reject the new organ tissue as a foreign substance and attack it. It means, in terms of work and stalled progress, productivity, self-sabotage, in terms of what you were saying, happiness, it's loss of purpose, it's loss of joy. your life feels small and unvalued.
As we move into talking about some steps, some strategies, some tactics to begin to fight back against the victim mindset, I think maybe it's useful to start with a bit of an odd question, but I think it's also a useful question, which is why I always think about these things as like, if we're there, if we have it, if we have a tendency toward it, it must be doing something for us. Mm-hmm. So what do you think the victim mindset is doing for us when we do get there, when we do find ourselves there, whatever the scenario is, whatever the context, whatever the trigger might be? Like, why is it advantageous for us in whatever way we think it is to go to a place where we're blaming other people, where we're making excuses, where we're pointing fingers? Like, what does that actually get us?
So what
if all the things you just laid out, it gets us a whole bunch of negative things.
Right. This is strange, but what it's doing is it's feeding our ego, just in a really disguised way. Yeah. Usually the ego goes like, I'm the best, I'm the most important. And a victim goes like, I'm nothing, there's nothing I can do. And that it is feeding the ego in a hidden way. So because you're saying I'm the one that's being wronged, you're saying I'm good, they're bad. You're saying I'm not the problem. If it's their fault, I don't need to change. That's dangerous.
Yep.
The ego doesn't care about positive or negative. It cares about importance. And this is how you're making yourself feel important. It's because it's their fault. I'm right. I'm not gonna actually go do the work. I can't do the work. They put too much up against me. But it's this idea that I'm going to keep feeding this self-image of I'm important in this weird, strange way. It's at first glance, it looks like powerlessness, but actually it's a power trip, right? You put you at the center of the story because I'm right. Yep. They're wrong. It also protects you from vulnerability. Mm-hmm. Like if I can keep up the armor. I don't need to say I'm wrong. And that's hard. Like saying I'm wrong, saying that I have work to do is hard, really hard. Even if it feels miserable, the ego, you're protecting the ego. And it's okay being in a miserable state because ego doesn't care about good or bad. It cares about importance. Yep. It wants to protect the individual. So that's the way it does it. It's this sort of like weird, disguised way of feeding the ego.
I think there's also a degree that the ego is also trying really, really hard to keep us safe.
Yeah,
and
right.
Everything you just laid out is, vulnerability is in some ways like the opening up to what feels like something that's unsafe, right? And I think that that's a big part of the victim mentality. Is it's an overprotection without recognizing that it's actually doing the exact opposite of what you're trying to do.
Right. It's
right?
this weird.
You're trying to protect yourself, but actually what's happening is you're putting yourself in a position where you are actually less safe in all sorts of ways.
Something hard happens, right? So something hard, like somebody challenges you, right? You don't get the promotion. The person, the political party you wanted didn't get into office, whatever it might be. Something hard happens. The ego says, this isn't fair. You don't deserve this. Mm-hmm. That story feels good because that creates safety and certainty. Yeah. Even if it causes suffering, and that's the crazy part. Yep. It will cause suffering, but the ego doesn't care about that part. It wants the safety and the certainty of like, I got this, and I'm good. Like this is you're right. You're right. Yep. Actually, like I've came across something recently about how this ChatGPT is kind of doing this in a really weird way. There is these like chatbot AI agents like ChatGPT have been programmed to be agreeable, have been programmed to be kind of like almost like a sycophant, where it's like, great insights, absolutely right, that's fantastic. And it just, even if like you, and what's happening is kind of like social media did this, where it pushed people down these paths because you only saw what you want to see. If you have these like kind of existential conversations with one of these AIs, it'll feed the ego to the point where like, you're absolutely right. That's a great insight. Glad for that clarification, because they've been programmed that way. It's causing people to go into psychosis. That's the point where it's like it can feed the victim mindset so much so, and to reinforce it in this rumination, in this loop where it reinforces itself over and over again to the point where it actually can destroy the human. And that's why we have to get to where Diego wants to do. It's like, what are the tools that are used to get out of this thing?
We're brought to you by Monarch Money, your ultimate financial command center that gives you full visibility and control over your accounts, investments, and goals to build the health of your financial life. We talk a lot about peace of mind here on the show, and I realized recently that financial stress was one area where I wasn't fully aligned with my values. Without awareness of where my money was going, I couldn't set clear intentions for my financial future. Monarch Money changed that by bringing all of my accounts into one place, allowing us to track our spending patterns and finally understand why we weren't saving as much as we had intended. Just like we approach our health with training and nutrition, Monarch can help you apply that same intentional awareness to your finances. We now use it for weekly spending reviews, which has transformed our money conversations from stressful to empowering. And with over 1 million households using it, Monarch was recently named Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025. Get control of your overall finances and support your path to peace of mind by visiting monarchmoney.com and use the code excellence for 50% off your first year. monarchmoney.com. Use the code excellence for 50% off your first year. We're brought to you by Function Health, the only health platform giving you access to over 160 biomarkers and the insights to take meaningful action toward true health freedom. Visit functionhealth.com/excellence to learn more and begin your journey to deep health. We chose Function because it aligns perfectly with our foundation of health as freedom. It's not just about looking good, but understanding what's happening inside your body. Function gives you awareness of crucial biomarkers like cortisol for stress management, hormones for energy and vitality, and inflammation markers that affect everything from your skin to your sleep. This platform puts names and numbers to the integral signals most people never see, allowing you to make intentional decisions about your health rather than just guessing. That's why health leaders like Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Andrew Huberman, and Dr. Jeremy London all trust Function. Whether you're dealing with low energy, mood swings, or skin issues, Function helps you understand the patterns beneath the surface. It's not just about treating symptoms, but about gaining the freedom that comes from truly knowing what's going on. Take action today and visit functionhealth.com/excellence to unlock the data that transforms your approach to health. functionhealth.com/excellence.
So the first thing we want to kind of say, like, this is where I always think it is. Even if this isn't my fault, like the ego is going to say it's not your fault, right? It's someone else's fault. It's because of the way you were treated as a kid, right? It's because of your boss. It's because of the terrible political environment we live in. It's somebody else's fault. Okay. Even if it's not my fault, we can kind of like it's a way to bypass the ego. Even if this isn't my fault, it is my responsibility. And responsibility is about taking ownership. And I love the way just to break this word down, responsibility. The ability to respond. This is what the victim does not do. There is no action with the victim. The victim just sits there pointing fingers, complaining, and stays on the couch. What we want to do is actually go and work and make change in ourselves. Now, the kind of way to bypass that is go like, okay, even if it isn't my fault. And that's once you say that, you go, but it is my responsibility to make this change. I am this way because of I was abused and the toxic environment I was raised in. Okay, it's true. That is not your fault. It is still your responsibility to make the most out of this life. Once we kind of get to that level, then we kind of go, okay, now it's time to do this. And maybe even a step before that, I almost bypassing this one because Diego already said it, we already spoke about it, but it's like, can you hear it? Can you hear the language? Can you understand the feeling and kind of like go relate to those feelings? What it looks like, as we said, can you see it happening when it's happening? And then go, okay, I still own this. It's on me to do this thing. My parents were overweight. My parents raised me with terrible lifestyle habits. It is not, now it is on me though. It is on me to now make myself healthy.
I think one of the things that is really important as well is to surround yourself with people who aren't themselves telling themselves the story of the victim. I think we talk about crew all the time. We talk about environment will always beat willpower. And it's so the case with mindsets and mentalities too, right? If you spend a weekend with us, it's going to be a lot different experience if you spend it with two people who constantly are blaming, as you said, the other political party or people not like them or their parents. Like, just imagine how differently you will feel after a weekend with us versus a weekend with them, and then extrapolate that out to your life or to a year or to the 4 years you're in college or the 4 years you're in high school or the 5 years you spend at that job. How powerful it is hearing hearing those kinds of stories and how influential they are in the story that you tell yourself about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's so much to unpack there, not to use that word again, but absolutely. Like, environment is going to beat willpower 9 times out of 10. So if you are able to, and this is like, I think this is actually kind of like probably a little bit farther down the step ladder of how to do this, because most victims are in victim environments. That's the reason they're a victim. Really hard to change your environment. But if you have the opportunity to do it, that by far and away is most impactful. And that's why getting to like a gym like ours is so powerful, because we have a community. I mean, we have these bracelets that we all wear, like never whine, never complain, never make excuses, because we believe that is so foundational to be taking agency and ownership over our lives. And it's like step one, like getting out of this, young Pablo, I think he's like a modern day philosopher. He has this great quote, which is, I'm going to butcher it, something along the lines of, true power is when you realize you are your own hero and healer. Like, I want to put that on the front door of our gym. Like, I'm dead serious, because that's what I want people to, when they walk in here, is to realize, like, this life is up to you. It's yours. Now, if you are surrounded with other people like that, it makes it a whole lot easier. Why? Because you don't have to have the awareness, because that's just now the default. What we're all saying is, like, you're just gonna go to the default without crazy amounts of awareness and intention. You're just gonna go. If the river is flowing in that direction, you're gonna flow in that direction. It takes crazy amounts of effort to swim upstream. Mm-hmm. So if we can't do that, let's do that for sure. The ways to move through that individually is what we talked about already, is listen, become aware, see it in yourselves. Then kind of understand that, like, these thoughts, first off, they're not you really. And this gets kind of esoteric, philosophical.
No, I think it's important though.
But they're there being presented to you for your observation. You don't get to decide your thoughts. They just pop in, and they're going by all the time. It's kind of like old school movies, and there's like the reels, and it's like square. It's passing by. That's your thoughts. And it's only when we sit on one, ruminate on it, and hold on to it, and then story tell around it, that it becomes part of our identity. what we can do is we can choose which ones of those we do that with. So if we have a negative thought, pessimist, or a thought of a victim, let's let it go by. You don't have to give it more meaning. And this is one of those weird things is we are bi-directional beings, meaning when something happens to us, we feel a certain way and we start to tell certain things about ourselves, right? If you get a raise, you get excited and you're proud. That's what you feel. And then you start to tell yourself like, man, I'm valuable and people appreciate me and I'm a hard worker. Well, the crazy thing is it works the other way too. If you just tell yourself like, people value me, I'm appreciated, I contribute, and I'm a hard worker, that ends up going that direction as well because of all of the things that happen on a hormonal and much deeper level in our bodies. We will act and perform in ways that are aligned with our belief system. So what we want to do is make sure the stories that we're telling ourselves, mindset is the story we tell ourselves. We're telling ourselves the right stories. And when we catch ourselves having pessimistic or negative or victim, we want to make either they go away or we reframe them. So things like, this, when people say this isn't fair, that shows up as like resentment in work or family. So instead of like ruminating on that resentment and doubling down on it, instead we reframe it and we go like, okay, what can I learn and what can I control? What can I learn from this and what can I control? What can I learn? What can I control? And we ask ourselves those questions. And that ends up in a very different way, the aggregation of marginal gains. Over the course of a day, a week, a month, or even 6 months, we might not even see any changes. But over the course of 3 years, 6 years, 9 years, 12 years, you will be in a completely different place.
I think one of the things I like that you just pointed out is this dichotomy between when we're in the victim mindset, what our primary action tends to be, or our primary default tends to be, is rumination, continuing to circle those stories back and back and back and back and back. Whereas once we move further up that continuum mindset toward the realist and certainly the warrior, is the default response to whatever it is that is either making us feel like a victim or not, is action. It's the difference between rumination and action, and how quickly can we recognize I'm moving into rumination, which is the opposite of action, and how quickly can I get myself to move forward? And it almost doesn't matter what the action is, as long as it's action away from that victim mindset, that blame, that complain, that pointing of fingers.
So this has been shared before, so I didn't come up with this, but one of the really powerful ways to get people to stop being depressed is go grocery shopping. Any action other than sitting and ruminating on the depression. Now, want to know what's better than that? Like hard physical activity. It is the best thing that we can do. So you're exactly right. Instead of, they never listen to me, this isn't fair, I can't do anything right, this will never change, they're the lucky ones, not me. Like, instead of that rumination of going over and over that, go take one small step. Action cures anxiety. You know what doesn't? Trying to fix the problem with the same mind that is creating the problem. That is not, you don't think yourself out of this situation. You start taking action, no matter how small. And that honestly, that it could be as small as get out of the house and go grocery shopping. Buy some vegetables.
Taking a walk can do it.
Go take a walk.
Wonders.
Yep. As long as you're not ruminating on the walk, right? Totally. That's a problem.
Great point. Yes. We're brought to you by Element, the electrolyte drink mix that supports your health with zero sugar, zero artificial ingredients, and all the essential minerals your body needs. Head to drinkelement.com/excellence to get your free Element sample pack. You just got to cover shipping. You know, achieving the kind of mindset we talk about here on the show starts with taking care of your foundation, and proper hydration is absolutely crucial. Element delivers the perfect ratio of sodium, potassium, and magnesium that your body needs, especially if you're training hard, following a low-carb diet, or practicing some intermittent fasting. And their brand new lemonade salt flavor is absolutely incredible. It's like a burst of summer in your water bottle. It is lovely. What we love about Element is that they're focused on real science-backed nutrition, no fillers, no junk, just what your body needs to perform at its best. Get your free Element sample pack and learn more about Element at drinkelement.com/excellence. You just got to cover shipping for that Element sample pack, and do make sure you check out Lemonade Salt. We're brought to you by Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform that's helping millions of entrepreneurs find their own path to excellence. Transform your business dreams into reality at shopify.com/excellence for just $1 per month. When we talk about chasing excellence, it's not just about the end goal. It's about finding strong foundations and taking intentional daily actions. Shopify embodies this philosophy by providing entrepreneurs with everything they need to build a strong business foundation. Their customizable templates make website designs effortless, while their powerful AI tools help with content creation, even product photography. Their integrated marketing tools let you connect with customers across all social platforms, creating meaningful connections that drive business growth. I've used Shopify a bunch, and I love Shopify. Just like how proper training in the gym gives you the freedom to perform at your best, Shopify's comprehensive platform gives you the freedom to focus on what truly matters, which is growing your business and serving your people. Head to shopify.com/excellence. Start your business journey for just $1 per month. Real quick, have you read the book? It's called Awareness by Anthony DeMello.
I have
you read
not.
this yet?
Nope.
You should. But one of the things, it's really good. One of the things he says in there, and it goes back a little bit to not identifying with the thoughts. And he just gives a really beautiful visual metaphor that I found to be really helpful since I read it, which is like the distinction between the sky and the clouds. And he says that we're too often confused that we are in fact the clouds. The clouds are our thoughts. The clouds are the things that move constantly. And we keep thinking that we're the clouds when we're actually the sky. And I love this idea of no, we are still. It's the clouds that are moving. And as long as we don't continually try to jump from one cloud to the other cloud, thinking that this is us and that cloud is us and this cloud is us, then we're going to be okay, because we can see the clouds for what they are, which is they come, they spend a little time with us, and then they keep on moving.
Yeah, I love that analogy. Cloud and sky, we are the sky. Clouds are coming by. They're always going to pass. They're going to change. They're going to change shape. Some days it's going to be cloudy. Some days it won't. Yep. Love that. The big idea to kind of go back to it is, I'm glad we're pulling back on this, is you are not your thoughts. Right? You have thoughts, but they don't define you, and they don't dictate your actions. You can separate your actions from your thoughts. I don't want to get out of bed. You can still get out of bed. I don't want to go to the gym. You can still go to the gym. I'm frustrated. You don't have to act frustrated. Instead of getting swept away by our thoughts, we can choose to observe them with curiosity, and then also choose how to respond. And that's why it gets back to that responsibility. The ability to respond.
I want to give a quick nod. We put out an article on the website that folks can find. It's called the 21-Day Story Shift Challenge. And again, you can find it at chasingexcellence.email. Just scroll down a bit and you'll find it. But I want to give a quick nod to it. And then if you want to add anything else on top of it, please feel free. But this was the 21-Day Story Challenge, which was start a story journal. Each morning, write down your default storytelling pattern. Are you typically a victim, pessimist, optimist, etc.? And then as you go, identify the triggers. Note the situations that prompt negative storytelling, whether it's traffic or work stress or family dynamics, anything like that. And then practice real-time awareness. When faced with a challenge, pause and ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? And then I think this is a really helpful thing, which is to use a bit of a reframing template. And it's 4 steps. Its first thing is what happened. Facts only, right? No editorializing. It's like this happened. So and then second step is what's my initial story about this? Third step is how can I view this as a realist? And then the fourth step is what opportunity exists here. And I will say that one of the things that I've done over the last year that's probably moved the needle more than anything, and we've talked about this a little bit before, is at the end of the day, I will spend 5 minutes to figure out, or at least think about and try to unpack one thing that knocked me off centered. And that's another way to say what's something that sent me backwards on the mindset continuum, whether it was to the victim or the pessimist. What was one thing that happened? Somebody said something didn't work, I was late, the kids, blah, blah, blah. And can I identify it? And then can I figure out the whys and the what did I do to actually get myself out of it? And so whether it's that or whether it's going through something like the story challenge, I think the process of writing it down, we've had Mark England on the show, and this is a big thing for him. The process of writing it down allows us to slow the story down enough for us to see it and enough for us to begin to rewrite it even just a little bit for the next time it happens. It gives us the opportunity to ask ourselves, is this true? Why did I fall into the victim mindset in this case? What could I have done differently? Or what did I do well that got me out of it relatively quickly?
Yeah. So I think that the journaling aspect is so powerful because I really am a big believer in the writing it down.
Yep.
I go through that practice in the opposite fashion, which is I try to do it proactively every morning, which is
like anticipatory.
Yes. I know I'm going to get knocked off centered.
Yep.
So this is what I write down a daily intention.
Yep.
That would go something along the lines of, when I get knocked off center today, I will ... right? Recognize, and the ... might be fill in the blank, right? Recognize that this is part of my human nature to overreact to negativity, right? Every human has a loss bias. Like it was more on the losses than the gains. That this is part of my evolutionary biology and my hard wiring, right? Yep. I'm very much into this, like, I've been doing this for a long time, starting with my athletes. I recognize this really early on with myself as an athlete, is the story I was telling myself was not serving me. So this is what I want to make sure I didn't pass on to, or I should say the way, that I was not default ingrained to my athletes. Mm-hmm. I wanted to make sure that I was helping them rewrite the story in such a way that it would serve them, not be detrimental to their journey on the way to peak performance. One of the things I'm so aware of, because I've kind of just like trying to connect dots, is where does this come from? Like, why is this happening to me? You don't need to figure that out. But for me to sit and live in the realist spot, it helps a ton. Because I go, hey, this negative thought is just part of the game. It's part of the deal. And I know why I'm having this. I didn't intentionally do this. But when someone says this to me, it's because back in the day, for so long, built into our evolution, this was attack on me as a person. And if that was way back when, it's built in my biology, that means that I might be ostracized from the community. So someone says something bad about me on social media, right? Something that hits a little too close to home, right? Something that like kind of ruffles the feathers. I'm like, ooh, like, okay, that felt terrible. Why does that feel so terrible that this person that I have, and I don't know it all, I'm not going to remember this at all in 5 years. It actually means nothing. If I'm going to put myself out there, I'm actually inviting this. Why does this feel so bad? And you go, oh, it's because of this. This dot leads to that dot. There's a trigger. There's a subconscious thought. That subconscious thought leads to an emotion. That emotion represents itself in a physiological state. That's how this thing works. It's the way the psychology, the mind-body connection is intertwined. Once you kind of like can assess that in real time. So like, first off, set yourself up. Like you either do it retroactively, like, oh, that's how that happened. That's what happened there. Or you go proactively, like, hey, today I'm going to be patient. I'm going to stay centered. I'm going to remember that there's a season to everything, right? That good and bad things happen. And I'm going to try to recognize this in the world when I see it. You know, one of the best examples I've used this before is, at the Noble Film Festival years ago in Brooklyn. Is one of the big coming out parties for Noble. Yeah. For the first time ever, they have thousands and thousands of people together, and we were having this like independent film event.
Fitness film festival.
Yeah, it was awesome, right? And in this thousands of people, literally in this huge, massive warehouse that they put together, and we go to turn on the first movie, and nothing happens for like, think how long that would feel if it was for like 60 seconds or 90 seconds. Yeah. This was like 13 minutes of awkward silence. Mm-hmm. And my stomach was like flipping upside down. I have nothing to do with putting on this event, but I'm so like uncomfortable for the people, for them, right? It's kind of like watching someone bomb in public speaking. Totally. You're like a comedian bomb. You're like, oh no. And I look over, I'm in the same row as the founders of Michael and Marcus, who Marcus was just on the show recently.
Yep.
It could not have rattled them less. They were so calm because they were operating at such a higher entrepreneurial level than I was, which they just know this is part of the deal. It's not life or death. It's just part of the process of owning, operating, and running a business, that these types of things are going to happen. If it's not happening today, it's going to happen next month. As you try to play bigger, this is the deal. As you try to play bigger, things are going to go wrong. Now, I go bring that back to like my social media thing. If I only post it, if I kept my account private and I only let my friends watch what I do, I wouldn't get the things that hit me in the gut. Mm-hmm. If I only had 500 followers, I probably wouldn't have those things. But as you want to play bigger, get more views, and do these things, you have to realize that this is part of playing the game. Now expand that, not only from entrepreneurship to my social media, but to life. If you want to get out of the basement, if you want to go and experience life for all that it's worth, you're going to go through seasons. Mm-hmm. You're going to go through winter. And winter is harsh and uncomfortable and a time of survival. But on the other side, spring. And spring is fun and beautiful and amazing, and summer is even better. And then you go to a fall harvest. It's like everything has these ups and downs. That's what the realist does. The realist doesn't label things as good or bad. They just realize that it's a part of life. Mm-hmm. If you kind of pull yourself into that mode, that really kind of like leapfrogs you out of the victim all the way through the optimist of like trying to reframe rose-colored glasses, look for the opportunities. Oh, it's okay. It'll be fine. Right to like, no, it's okay. Like sometimes there's bad and sometimes there's good, and I don't need to overdo it. And, it's just a way to kind of like pull back the why do I feel like this? Because there's a reason, and you don't need to give it more meaning because it doesn't serve you.
I love that story about the film festival because I'd be right there with you. But it makes me realize like part of where the victim mindset comes from is the false belief that things aren't supposed to go wrong, mm-hmm. which is in and of itself the judging of good versus bad. When your expectations are things are going to go smoothly and everybody's going to give you what you hope for, and that the person you voted for is going to win, and that your boss is going to love you, and that everybody's going to love the next Instagram post, when that's your default mentality, reality is going to slap you in the face almost every single time. Occasionally it won't, but the more often than not, it is going to slap you in the face with reality. And so part of this, I think, is moving that set point, moving that default, is in fact recognizing, to the point you just made, which is that the goal here, or our default state needs to be being open to the fact that things might go well and things might go poorly, and that it actually doesn't matter how things go. It only matters how I respond to how it goes. That puts the agency back on us and not on how it goes, not on does the post go well, does the product sell, does my boss like me, does the girl say yes, whatever it might be. removing that from our set of expectations and only putting the expectations back on us and saying, how am I going to respond to this? What am I responsible for?
Yeah, man, love that. Exactly right. Unrealistic expectations create constant disappointment.
Yes.
And they feed the victim narrative, right? Which is like, I should be farther along. This should have been like, that is the rumination on this negative thing. I love that. It's like this idea that everything should be good, that the world should unfold the way that I want it to. Well, there's 8 billion people on the planet Earth. They're not all going to say, act, and behave the way that you want them to. That's just so unrealistic. You can't control the weather. You can't control the economy. You can't even control your boss. So it's just this unrealistic. It's like, that's why we want to be the realist. And the extreme of that is perfectionism, right? Which demands flawless self-performance and really is the thing that keeps people like really stuck. Because in order to grow and navigate the world productively, we need curiosity, not criticism. And another way to think about this, the way I've talked with my athletes, I've said on here before, is that awareness of the voice in your head. Like if it was projected on a loudspeaker, would you be proud of what it's saying? Is it the voice of a critic? The critic is the one on the sidelines, in the stands, pointing out the faults of the person doing the deeds. Or is it one of a curious competitor? Is it one of a coach? Are you curious and thinking like, how can I get better? What could I have done differently there? Or is it a coach? One of encouragement or looking for better ways to do things? We it goes back to the beginning one. Is we really just kind of need to observe our own patterns and step away from this unrealistic expectations, step away from this perfectionism, step away from this judgment in general. We talked about that quote before of be curious, not judgmental. All of those things sabotage our growth. They sabotage our happiness. They end up in a higher state of stress and anxiety. If I was to work with high-level athletes again, the number one thing I would do is what you just alluded to, which is, can we focus on how we respond to situations, forgetting about the outcomes? This is Nick Saban's The Process. Nick Saban was kind of floundering as a middle of the road coach. And they were going up for they were about a 500 team, a little below 500, meaning they lost a little more than they won. And they went up against, one of the top 5 teams in the country, and they were supposed to get slaughtered. And his pregame speech was almost like an F it, guys. He goes, just like, forget it if we win or lose. He kind of did it out of like frustration. He's like, forget if we win or lose. I don't even care if we win or lose. I just want to go out there and watch every single one of you give every single thing to every single play. I don't care about the scoreboard. Only thing I care about is not what happened last play, the way this game is going to end up. The only thing that matters is, do you give all of your effort to this singular second? And they went out and beat this top 5 team. And he's like, holy crap. That's amazing.
I think I'm onto something.
Yeah, and he totally changed his coaching approach to went on to that being the process and end up becoming the most successful college football coach ever. Just simply this thing of like, let's forget about judgments. Let's forget about perfectionism. Let's forget about expectations. And let's just work on how we respond in full effort. That's it, guys. That's all I want is, in this moment, can you give me everything? This moment. I don't care what just happened. Yeah, you're offsides? Cool. This moment. You just created a penalty? Cool. Don't care. This moment now. Like, how many of us actually are able to do that we don't hang on to the last 4 mistakes we made? That's what we're trying to pull, not only of elite athleticism, but to everyday life.
Yep. Last words to Diego, if you got any.
You're on the path. You are now in the mental gym. Once you have that level of awareness of this is what I'm working towards, you have now picked up. Once you can hear that voice, you have now picked up the dumbbells and you're doing the work. But just like a 300-pound squat or 20 pull-ups or a sub 6-minute mile. It takes work. It doesn't happen overnight. Just sit with this and work on it. Allow yourself the opportunity without the extra judgment. Just like every time you came into the gym, if you couldn't deadlift 400 pounds, you wouldn't go, God, what's wrong with me? Right? You just go, you know it takes a while to get there. So just keep walking into that mental dojo and doing the work.
Leave it there. Thanks, buddy. Thank you, Diego, for the question. Thank you very much for tuning into the show. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening or watching so you do not miss another episode. For more frameworks and daily practices, visit chasingexcellence.email. And don't forget to tap the link in the show notes for today's full listener guide, where we break down the key ideas and provide actionable steps to help you put them into practice. Until next time, keep building health, finding freedom, and living with your heart on fire.
There's a time and a place for filet of fish. But breakfast is for sausage biscuits. McDonald's breakfast comes first. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.